video, I'm going to be having a discussion about the new HM7000 control system from Hornby. And if you're like me, coming from purely an analogue background, this is a massive step forward into the way we control and enjoy the hobby. And what I plan to do is talk through how I have gone about going from analogue up to this new DCC HM7000, and hopefully give some tips that I certainly needed for prepping, amending and adapting my locomotives and really making a start into this new world. For me, and the purpose of this video, is to really talk through how I went about going from analogue up to DCC. There are many different products. Most of the ones that we can buy now are DCC ready, but there are a few which are DCC fitted, like some of these on the screen here. I received a Railroad Plus Class 55 DCC fitted for Christmas, which was all ready to go. But I also received a Class 40, the Empress of Britain, DCC ready. And for that particular locomotive, I needed this DCC sound decoder 8-pin, which retails from Hornby for $64.99, but other retailers do offer a bit of a discount. Once I got the decoder, I needed to be able to convert my track, my analogue track, into a DCC, and for that I needed a power adapter, the HM7000 power adapter, which I purchased direct from Hornby and I'll show the price on the screen in just a moment, for $7.99. This then plugged into a standard Hornby power adapter and then direct into my digital power track, which I also purchased online. But to really help me get through my process of change, I purchased the January issue of the Hornby magazine, which came with a supplement for starting with Bluetooth, which was timed brilliantly for me getting my first HM7000 locomotives. And as always with many of these publications, it really goes into some of the background, the detail, all the bits of equipment you need, power banks, sound installation, the decoder chips themselves. There's 8-pin, 21-pin, which, if you're anything like me, meant absolutely nothing about a month ago when I started looking at this, and some of it still does mean nothing. But on the whole, this was quite a good guide. There are guides online as well, and hopefully what I'll put on today might help a few people set themselves up to go from analogue to DCC. And as you can see there, the example used happens to be that Class 55 that I got over the Christmas period. Looking at the decoder instructions, it talks you through that connection from the power socket to the track, the digital power track there, which I purchased online, the HM7000 power adapter, which plugs straight into this AC adapter, which I already had from a previous train set. And as you can see, through the power supply adapter, an easy plug-in straight into a digital power track there, which I think is about £13 online, give or take. So I started, my plan was to go and adapt this Class 40 Railroad Plus model, which is DCC ready, into a full DCC fitted with sound. So opening up the instructions for the Class 40, it gives a little bit of detail about where the decoder fits in, which does mean you have to take off the bodywork first, which I set about doing. So there I go, take the bodywork off. I had to unclip it first, obviously, but the power of editing there. And then into the DCC sound decoder itself. So this is the 8-pin version, and as you can see there, there's already a chip in the socket, so we need to remove that chip first. This is the chip that comes with the locomotive when it's DCC ready, not fitted. So we take that one off, and then we get the new 8-pin DCC decoder straight from the packet, and there it is there. And that then, once you've got it out, simply plugs into that 8-pin socket on the locomotive itself. Make sure that's all pressed down nicely. So the next bit is installing the sound speaker, the sugar cube speaker they call them. And this fits into the 8-pin decoder as shown. This sugar cube speaker is fairly small. There is also an option of it adding in a power bank, but the power bank doesn't come with the decoders as sold. but the speakers themselves fit into little enclosures, little plastic enclosures, which help amplify the sound, and I'll show you where I fitted mine on the Class 40 fairly shortly, but there's different size enclosures depending on the size of your locomotive. So here is the Sugar Cube speaker, which I have already added to the top of the enclosure, but that plugs into the DCC decoder like thus. The decoder itself you can secure down, and it's recommended that you secure it down. I've not done that yet, but just for illustration purposes, this is where that Sugar Cube speaker plugs in. The important thing about the Sugar Cube speaker is to make sure that it is attached to an enclosure. So I've attached it to the lid of an enclosure, as you saw there, but it comes with other enclosures which it sticks onto this little sticky back peel that you take off and then apply it to those. The theory behind this is that the larger the enclosure, the larger the space that the sound has to vibrate around, etc., and the better output you get. So there are medium, small and large enclosures which can fit to your locomotive. There isn't particularly a guide about where these fit, and there is a little bit of just trying to make them fit in the best place, which for me on the Class 40 I used the larger enclosure and then fitted the box into the bodywork, which you can just see there. I did use a little bit of glue just to stick that in there to make sure it doesn't rattle around, and then the lid of the enclosure, which will effectively be the base once the bodywork is the right way around, just fits it in the top like that. I'll just get the camera in the right place. So there it is, the Sugar Cube speaker, once I've put that lid on properly, will then be amplifying your sound into that box, and hopefully it should sound fairly decent once we get it running on the track operated by the DCC bits and pieces. So then I go about putting the bodywork back onto the chassis of the locomotive and the motors, etc. Got to be careful just with that DCC decoder. I'm sure there is a far better way of securing that. I've left it a little bit loose, which is probably incorrect of me, and I'm sure somebody will look to point that out to me fairly soon. But I put the bodywork back on, making sure it's all in there. That Sugar Cube speaker is secured at the top of the bodywork, up where the fans would be, etc. And I'll make sure that's all clipped on before we move on. You then have to download the HM7000 app. It's free to do from the Apple or Android store, or whatever your smart device is centered upon. This Hornby guide was very good, went through every stage. This guide's also online as well, and there are plenty of videos out there which go through that. The way you start it, once you've got the app, you have to link your device by clicking Start Scan. That will then start scanning for your decoder. The important thing here is to make sure that your locomotive is on the track and the track is powered. That powers that decoder and allows it to speak to the app, which is a mistake I made at first. Because I've already connected my decoder, I can't show you that full process, but when you scan it, it will come up with an HM7000 and then a number. That is a specific number for your decoder. You click on that and then link it. Once that is linked, you can then go into the profile, edit the photo, edit the name, edit the number. I've just called this Delta 210, Empress of Britain, because that's the name and number. Once that is done, you must go down then to import function maps. That allows it to then start looking for profiles, which you do via the Browse Profiles section of the app. In the profiles, these are the sound profiles that you can then download to your app, all free of charge. There wasn't a Class 40. Allegedly there is a Class 40 coming out this year, but hopefully we'll see that soon. It seems to be taking quite some time. So I've cheated and gone for a Class 37. I know it's not correct, but I've used that with regards to my Class 40. It's important to make sure the vehicle status is set to active as well. As you can see, this is my phone I use the control for. Rename the loco, you can do in there. So again, I've just put Delta 210 in that one, etc., or Class 40, whatever you want to do it. Give it a name, all that sort of stuff. One thing I did find and need to remember is that when you are powering this up, when you're downloading features, when you're updating the profiles, it'll often ask you to power cycle your locomotive, your decoder. All that means is just take it up off the track, 5 seconds or so, and then place it back down again. So here is an example again of that. You just ask for the power cycle. I've got the bodywork off the Class 40 again, but you just lift up one side of the locomotive or the whole thing, and then 5 so seconds, and then replace it back on the track. And then you click the arrow, the tick, and that should have the sound pack installed. Then just click dismiss, which always feels a bit odd. But then once it's all installed, you can go back to the app. I apologise, I've gone back to the Class 55 on here, but it does the same on the Class 40, and then you can start cycling through the sounds. So they should then emit from your little speaker that you put into the locomotive. So a bit of the engine starts there, but you've got a multiple number of options, horns. They vary across the sound profiles clearly. I've used the Class 37 for my Class 40, so there's some subtle differences there. But on the whole, you can cycle through these sounds, a bit of brake squeal there. You can then notch the diesel up, notch it down, etc., set it to idle, and all these sort of bits and pieces, just to give it that extra dynamic, a little bit more realism. But there's other interactive sounds as well, the windscreen wipers, guards whistle, coupling, and I think there's door closers, door closers as well, nice station sounds. They all do differ, there are different sounds for different profiles, so it's really, you never really know what you're going to get until you've got it, because you can't download or have a look at the different profiles after you've attached it and synced it to your decoder. So overall, can I recommend HM7000? And the answer is yes. I have found it to be an incredibly engaging experience. The whole running of the layout, for me, feels more fun, feels more realistic with the sounds, with the control of the acceleration rates, etc. But it also has been a far simpler process of conversion than I initially thought. It's buying the decoder, buying the digital power track, and buying the HM7000 power adapter. If you already have a Hornby AC adapter, there are some that aren't compatible, but those are traditionally the older ones that if you've got a railway set now, most of them will have the newer ones. But if you've got that, all you really need now is the decoder to go into your DCC ready locomotive, the HM7020 power adapter, and the digital power track. The cost of which, the decoder is about £65, some retailers sell them for about £57. The digital power track, which you can find for about £13, and then the power adapter, which is £7.99. And once you have that decoder, all the sound profiles are free. The app's free. I am hoping that more sound profiles come out over the next year. I'm desperately waiting for my Class 40 sound profile to put into the Empress of Britain. At the moment, it's running around sounding like a Class 37, which, for me, playing around on the set and the track isn't too much of a problem. But when I have my days of being pedantic, I do wish and long for that Class 40 sound profile. But overall, I've been impressed. It's a fairly decent system. It works well. There is no delay, I found, using Bluetooth rather than having it all wired. Certainly not any delay that I've noticed. And one of the key things is the stuff that's coming out as well over the next 12 months. We have the Hornby DCC steam generators, which I am particularly looking forward to. And got my eye on one of the Stadia Black 5s that should be coming out, hopefully, in the next few months. But as I say, good system, fairly easy to install. The app threw a few complications my way, but that was me not necessarily following the instructions rather than the app's fault. So please follow the instructions, and they're all fairly laid out anyway. But if you do want to go from an analog to a DCC HM7000 circuit, it really doesn't take that much time and effort. Certainly doesn't need any expertise. I managed it, and if I can manage it, anyone can. But thanks very much for watching, and have a good day.